When I first heard about the Steam Deck, I was very intrigued. It looked like a Valve Edition Nintendo Switch, but something inside of me told me to hold off. When it comes to a company like Valve, they tend to do certain things very well, but it can take them a long time to get things right. Their software is incredible. The Half-Life series, Portal, Counter-Strike, they're all great, and saying anything less is a sin. But they've been in the hardware game before, and it didn't really pan out for them. First, it was those Steam machines, which, as you know, were a confusing mess and they discontinued them. Then there's the Steam controller, which is arguably pretty good, but definitely not perfect, and they discontinued them. They then had the Steam Link, which is also okay, but it's discontinued. Now, I have to admit that the Valve Index is literally the best VR headset that I've ever used, and I really hope they stay in the VR game because they kick ass. Now they have these little handheld Valve Tendos, and they look great, but knowing Valve the way I do, this product seems like something they're going to put a lot of time into. Likely multiple generations, and as far as I've seen, this product may be much more worth it when the second edition comes out. That being said, after looking up reviews of the Steam Deck as it is right now, I freaking want one. Before we get into the video, there's something I have to share. YouTube takes 35 to 45% of your revenue. Patreon takes between 5 to 12%. But the other day I found this new app called Koji that I can use to receive tips, and the entirety of it goes to me. If you've been thinking about supporting me on Patreon but didn't want to subscribe monthly, this is a much better option for all of us. Simply go to the link in the description, click on Help Me Support My Channels, click the tip amount, and all of that money goes straight to me instead of YouTube or Patreon. Running multiple channels is rough, especially when my two new ones aren't monetized. Let's make this life easier on each other. Now back to the video. As of right now, there are three versions of the Steam Deck. You have the $399 64GB version, the $529 256GB NVMe SSD version, and then the $649 512GB SSD version. And each of these different variants come with more goodies. For example, the first two editions have regular screens, while the premium version has an anti-glare screen. So depending on what you care about, you can pick your poison. I think the crappy thing about the different versions is they're trying to use storage to entice you. Fine, you're getting an SSD in the latter two, but 512 gigabytes? I installed GTA 5 on this thing and I'm out of storage. You're gonna need external storage anyway, so why try to entice me with a larger capacity? It feels like an Apple move. Due to this, you need to remember that you're not just buying this console, you're also going to want to save up for a 1TB micro SD card. It's just necessary with the space they give you. One thing I was really impressed with was the amount of controls that you have on this thing. I've been told that this is the most comfortable handheld device that exists right now. The buttons are well spaced. You have two thumbsticks, a D-pad, ABXY buttons. There are 4 extra buttons on the bottom of the Steam Deck. You have your triggers, 2 on each side. There are 2 trackpads that operate like mouse pads on a laptop. And then you have a 7-inch 60Hz IPS touchscreen. And since there are so many different types of video games on Steam that have their own variety of control scheme, it's great that this device seemingly has no limit to how you can play the games. Not only that, but you could even hook a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse up to this and play with those. And since the Steam Deck is Bluetooth, you could also hook up a Bluetooth controller. So you literally have all the options here on this device. One thing that's really important to mention is how much attention Valve is putting into this console. When people find a problem, Valve gets on it faster than we've ever seen them react before. They really do want this console to do well, which is one reason I wouldn't blame you if you bought the first generation Steam Deck. But the fact that they're putting so much effort into this does tell me that they might be testing the waters with this one, and there will very likely be a second edition. I mean, why spend so much time and effort on the software, forming a premium product, making sure that as many games as possible are being optimized every day to work with this handheld, if they don't plan on continuing a product line? And I expect another variant of these things in about a year or so. A really cool feature regarding how Valve is optimizing games: any game you own on Steam, the Steam Deck pre-caches the shaders, which means you won't be getting stutters or hitching while you play your games. Now, for people who don't know what I'm saying here, imagine you're playing a game and you venture into a new area. On a normal PC, you have to load the shaders for that area in real time, which, depending on your hardware, can result in a multi-second hiccup while the computer renders. The Steam Deck has all of that information preloaded into it, so the games you own can run as smoothly as possible the entire time. And it would be really cool if our computers did that, Valve. What the hell? There's actually a really good reason that that kind of thing would be really hard to incorporate on your PC, but we can get into that another time. One thing I heard that got me very excited about this little console was that emulating games on this device is apparently extremely easy. On the backwards compatible consoles, you cannot find all the games that you want to play. Sony doesn't have all the Metal Gear games, for example. Xbox has most of them, but the Steam Deck has every single one. Not only are a lot of the new Metal Gear games on Steam, but the ones that aren't are emulatable. And this is one big place this console shines. EmuDeck.com is a great assistant for that. It installs every emulator that you can think of, going all the way up to the Nintendo Switch. It automatically configures the screen resolution for different emulators. It maps the controls for you automatically, so you don't have to spend a bunch of time setting that up. Now, if I had a reason to buy the Steam Deck, this is that reason. I can play all my PC games, I can play all my emulated games, I can play the Nintendo Switch games, I can stream my games from my PC to the Steam Deck. I can do all this from the comfort of wherever the hell I want to be. You best believe that if I bought this thing, the emulation scene is the first place that I would go. And the thing that surprises me the most about the Steam Deck is how universal it is. It is literally an all-in-one console that can go anywhere with you. The fact that it's Linux-based means you're not restricted from any and every piece of software you'd ever want. Its hardware is also better than the Nintendo Switch, meaning if you want a Nintendo Switch that can play all your PC games, you either hack your Nintendo Switch, install Lineage, then use Nvidia to stream your games from your PC, or you buy a Steam Deck and start downloading emulators. Now, there are some things that I'm hearing about the Steam Deck that aren't so flattering, and if you're considering getting one, this information might be really good for you. One thing I'm hearing about the Steam Deck is that the battery life sucks. Playing games grants you about an hour or an hour and a half of game time before the console shuts down, which in my opinion is something that needs to be improved in the second edition, especially since the Steam Deck claims to offer 2 to 8 hours of playtime. I get it, the Steam Deck is a mini PC and it's incredible it can do what it does, but an hour is kind of pathetic, and I'd like to see this improved in the Steam Deck Mach 2. Another thing I've been hearing is how many games are really playable, and there's varying levels of controversy here. It seems most games are playable. They may not give you the green check mark, but that just means that they either don't have the controller scheme mapped, or the settings haven't been optimized, but you can still play them and set your own graphics settings. You might have to set your own custom control scheme or download a mapper, but you can play most games that are in your library. I've also been hearing that having the Steam Deck makes you appreciate and dig up indie games that you likely wouldn't have given much of your time to. And this is a nice thing to hear and another thing that entices me to the point that I'm really considering getting one of these. Now, on that note, the big problem with the Steam Deck is the Steam games that you can play. Some games are verified playable, and then a week later they're unsupported. Horizon Zero Dawn was supposed to launch with the Steam Deck, and to this day, it starts breaking down halfway through the game. This is unacceptable, and it's one reason I generally wait for the second editions of these kinds of things. Valve makes great software, but their hardware takes time. Now, Valve has been very good at listening to the community regarding the Steam Deck and implementing fixes very fast, which is great to see. It's obvious they really care about this thing, but it should not be the community's job to find the issues and share with Valve how to go about fixing it, which is what the community had to do with Final Fantasy VII Integrate. The game was supposed to come out verified for the Steam Deck, but the worst settings were picked for it. So if you went in and set the textures and shadows to low, you changed the resolution to 720p 60fps, yada yada yada, it fixed the game and made it run as it should have. But Valve should have had someone verifying this so that if a game comes out and you buy the Steam Deck, cause god damn it, that game would be perfect for this console, Valve says it'll work and then you shell out the money and realize the game works for about halfway through and then breaks, that's gonna be irritating. Now, this may not be a very popular opinion. I love the idea of the Steam Deck, and I'm very excited about it. I think it shows a lot of potential for the future of handheld consoles, and I could see other companies jumping on and trying to make their own version of the Switch. As of right now, Valve is busting their ass trying to optimize this device, adding frame rate features, ways to see your temps in-game, battery life optimizations, and they're delivering a lot to the community very quickly. I see them having a full-fledged operating system on this thing in no time. Most of the major Steam games playable on it, but for me, as of right now, this is a terrific proof of concept. I'm not going to be buying the first edition of the Steam Deck. I see Valve really is passionate about this product, and that gives me a lot of hope for the Mach 2. If you do buy the Steam Deck, I have a recommendation for you. Get the initial one, the one that sells for $399. Go online and get yourself a 1TB microSD card and an anti-glare glass screen protector. Then go buy a 512 NVMe SSD and swap it out for the 64GB that's in there. You basically get all the best features without having to pay the premium price. And as a thank you, you can either come over to my house and let me try out the Steam Deck, I've heard it's incredibly fun to play, or you can go into the description and tip me back for this video, and maybe I'll go buy my own. Just kidding, I'm actually too cool for that. All the games on the Steam Deck I can just emulate on my PC using a program that I use called Steam, so yeah. I mean, you wouldn't know about it, it's really underground. Bye guys.